This slide is something about one of the first PV cell manufactured here in Italy in 1980. I have had one data here is about 600 microns of thickness, and all the grid on the cells are silver. You see that there is a bit of a strong thickness also of silver. You can imagine the cost of it. From that point, we start manufacturing about a few kilowatt per year in a factory near Rome. At that time was the largest European factory for photovoltaics. That's what Enrico told you. That was the name of the company, was Pragma. In my view, it took about 40 years to achieve the today goals. I will show you a few things in this time. In this line, in the picture, you see the Ministry of Industry of that time in 1980 was visiting the first exhibition of solar energy applications in Italy, and was the second in Europe at that time. It was done in Genoa. And but the interesting thing is, a part of the initial political interest on the photovoltaic, we see that in 1987 the factory was producing about 1 megawatt per year with about 100 employees. Today, minimum economic factory is in the order of 3,000 megawatt per year, using the same number of people. So the automatization of the industrial process was difficult to accomplish, but in the last 10 years was really an increase of productivity. And today, if we compare these two data, we found out that this productivity increased 3,000 times during the same period of time. 40 years, 3,000 times. That's something basic to keep in mind. Well, in this other, we saw what happens in terms of efficiency and cost. In this slide is mainly dedicated to the efficiency. You can see there's been always a big fight between monocrystalline and polycrystalline. But what in 1981, the efficiency was 8 to 10% maximum. And sometimes in a few laboratories at that time, somebody reached even 22%, but without any possibility to bring this efficiency on the industrial phase. Today, we are probably around 20% is the average module efficiency, with that is the value that we reached in the labs 40 years ago. So it took a lot of time to increase the efficiency of the cell, and this is one of the main factors that not the only one, that was able to reduce the cost of electricity. We shall see the other factors. Okay, can you? So this is what happens to the thickness of the wafers. You know that the silicon comes out of sort of a metallurgical process. At the time, there was a sort of Czochralski method. Czochralski method is something that were produced a cylinder of silicon. I have some piece of paper. I can show here this. You see this. This is the head of a cylinder of silicon. This is a monocrystalline. There is no other crystal here, only one. So you can understand that it's not easy to make this solid from the liquid phase without the born, say, of new crystals. So to make a single crystal monoblock like that, there was a lot of time to be spent on the decreasing the temperature very slowly, so the solidification could become with only one single seed of crystal. That was the real origin of that, coming out from the electronic silicon. That was the demand for that was at the time very high, but the purity of the silicon was also one point that really was difficult to reach this purity in an industrial process for mass production like photovoltaic was needed. So this is in these graphs you see what happens to the another factors apart from the efficiency is the thickness. The thickness was reduced progressively in all these years, starting with the wire saw. So the saw used wires even thinner and thinner during the period, but at the end there was a physical limitation because when you cut a ingot, all the silicon that you cut to slice the wafers, you lose all that, the same thickness of the wire is lost. It's very difficult to recover to any process and then establish the thickness of the wafer. So there is, I think we try to start wiring and sewing the ingot in 1987. Was with this new wire saw. At the end, we reach the today, let's say, consumption of silicon per watt that is now reached about 4 grams instead of 16 grams at that time. So in 13 years, you get an enormous advantage in terms of using of silicon to make a wafer. So now it's about to make a cell, really. It's 4 grams per watt, and this was the one or the other reason to save costs, production costs. Then there are factors like economical scale, increase of efficiency, like I said before. So all that the result of this is a reduction, a strong reduction of price of module or price of electricity, because from the price of module depends the price of electricity produced, obviously, because this is something that now has reached very, very low numbers that we shall see in the next slides, but you can say that today we can compete without any problems, and the majority of the electricity of the added capacity in the Italian grid and even worldwide is done by photovoltaics and wind compared to the oil and gas and coal. Please. Oh, at that time, in 2006, the Italian government decided at the end of a strong political battle to support the production of electricity by photovoltaics. And this scheme here that we have done in 2000, I remember 2013, yes, to demonstrate that the investment made by the government through the electricity bill that were charged of all the incentives given to photovoltaics. So first of all, the government decision was to charge the electricity bills of all the Italians with a quota that to dedicate such a quota to the development of photovoltaic, of the Italian photovoltaics. That was called quota piano energia. Yeah, there are different piano energia, about 5 piano energia starting in 2006. And the enormous, the incentives at that time were very high. And we found a lot of let's say, opposition by many companies, the large oil companies, but even the large electricity companies criticized very much such numbers. They were at the beginning in the order of 400 euros per megawatt hour. So that is very, very high. And the blue line here is demonstrated the cost from 2006 to 2013, then a decrease up to 2032. This is why, because the reason is that the incentives were decided on the new plans for 20 years. So a plans that has been put in online in 2011, for example, will have the incentive of that decided in 2011 up to 20 years. So the incentives will stop in 2031. So there are this, the blue line is the line of cost. But obviously the reasoning that were behind that, the rationale, were not so much the environmental reason, but the very reason at that time were the dependence by the fossil fuel of all the energy sectors in Italy. There were more than 85%, and with about 78%, if I remember well, were fossil fuel imported. So Italy were spending a lot of money to buy oil, to buy gas from outside, because as you know, we do not have a large reservoir of gas or oil in Italy. So what we've done here in that year is to demonstrate that even considering that the investment was very, very costly for the citizens, because they pay bills with that increase of price to support the photovoltaics and also the wind. And we have demonstrated that the investment at the country level, globally, will bring an enormous economic advantage in the long period. In fact, today, we have already reached the point, I think we are very close to reach the point of where the total advantage in terms of bill to pay the oil and gas compared to what we are spending every year to support the incentive that has been decided some years ago. You can see all the years here. And then at the end of it, in 2033, the savings exceeds very much the total PV incentives. All the yellow line here with the green line, vertical line, are the total advantage that you can see, you can calculate what the total advantage for the country. So that what means that the decision of support photovoltaic, support the electricity produced by photovoltaic plant, even at level that were at the beginning very high and then was decreased during the year up to 2012, were a good investment for the country. Today, in fact, we are able to do many other things, starting from the point where we have reached.